Have you ever wanted to learn how to operate a manual transmission? Whether it be a family member having one or you just wanting to learn how, it can be a daunting task and it may seem very difficult at first. However, with this very easy tutorial, you'll learn how to do it in no time. Before driving, it's important to understand what the components of a manual transmission car are and how to use them. The first difference is going to be the shifter, and most cars just have a shifter to go from park, reverse, neutral, drive, etc. Manual transmission cars do not have that. Instead, they have a shifting knob that goes from first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sometimes sixth gear, depending on the car. And they also have a clutch pedal. A clutch pedal is going to be the third pedal, and it's the one that typically scares the most people because, quite frankly, they have no idea what to do with this third pedal. The easiest way to configure your feet is just to have your right foot floating between the brake and the gas pedal, and then have your left foot on the clutch. The function of the clutch is to engage or disengage the gears. For instance, you can put in the clutch pedal and put it into gear and then move it between gears as you please. In a manual transmission, you're actually going to utilize the tachometer. The tachometer is typically looked over in cars. Most people don't even know what it does. As you can see, it can be below 1,000 rotations per minute, and we can still have speed. As you can see, we are moving. However, our tachometer is not moving. Our miles per hour is slightly moving because we are, in fact, in motion. You can also be at a stop and have your tachometer moving. The tachometer essentially tells you how many rotations per minute your engine is moving. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, etc. The function of this is to be able to tell what gear you should be putting your car into and how fast your engine is moving. Typically when changing gears, it's easiest to go from first gear and then once it reaches 3, shift into second gear, and it goes to a slightly lower RPM because your engine is in fact moving at a slower speed because of the higher, larger gear. One of the biggest, most important parts of driving a manual transmission is starting and stopping. So that's kind of where I struggled when I was first learning how, is the process of starting and stopping. It can be very difficult for some people. So what you're first going to do is you're going to put it in neutral, make sure you are at a complete stop. You can use your foot brake and engage the clutch pedal and then put it into first gear. And if you let off your brake, if you're on a hill, you'll start rolling whichever way is downhill. So you might roll backwards or forwards. It's a lot easier starting if you're rolling forward. So if you're wanting to practice just starting and stopping, doing it on a downward hill first is a lot easier. So basically what you're going to start doing is you're going to give your gas just a little bit of acceleration, and then you're going to let off your clutch. So again, this is going to look a bit like this. So brake, come to a complete stop, I have my clutch in, so I really don't have to put it in neutral. I can just put in my clutch because it does the same thing. So my clutch is in neutral, or my clutch is in, but I'm in first gear, so I'm gonna roll backwards since I'm on a hill, give it gas, and I'll slowly start coming forward. I can let off the clutch at this point, and as you can see now, I'm just driving in first gear. It doesn't sound so nice. The car is it sounds like the engine's working a lot harder than it really should. I'm at about 3,000 RPMs, and I'm going about 20 miles per hour, so what I'm going to do now is engage the clutch and then pull it into second gear and let off the clutch, give it gas at the same time, and since there's a stop, I'm just going to slow to a stop here. So we're on a downward hill, so if I let off the clutch, I'm gonna roll and then go up the hill. And here we go. So as you can see, clutch in, shift. Now we're in second gear. Now we do the same process for going into third gear. Clutch in, shift. And finally fourth gear, clutch in, shift. So now you're driving in fourth gear. I'm at about 2,000 RPMs and I'm going about 40 miles per hour right now. So what you can do now is just practice going from fourth to third. So slow down a little bit, and if there's a hill in front of you, you can just put it into third, and then when you go up hills, it's a lot easier to do it in third gear, even if you're going about 40 miles per hour, just because that way your engine can give more torque to the wheels. And as you can see, I get visibly more torque when I put it in a lower gear. So as you can see, I'm giving it a lot of gas right now in fourth gear, and we're not really going anywhere. We're going about 30, and my RPM is dropping dramatically. So then you can put it in something like first gear, and I get a lot more torque. So I get a lot more motion considering how much gas I'm giving. To driving with a manual transmission. One of them is fuel economy. For instance, I get about 284 miles out of one tank of gas. My tank holds about 11 gallons, so I get about 25.8, almost 26 miles to the gallon. Considering my car is about 12 years old, this is a very good fuel efficiency, and it varies from time to time depending on how much time I spend on the highway. But there's definitely a lot of advantages to the manual transmission because you are in absolute control of how much gas you're giving it. Along with mileage, it's also very appealing to parents who are getting their kids to drive and start driving because it doesn't really allow you to be distracted while driving. You can't exactly text and drive or eat and drive because you're constantly using both of your hands at once, one on the steering wheel and one shifting. So it's very appealing to parents, and it can help you possibly coerce your parents into letting you operate one of their cars if it's a manual transmission. Along with this, it's also much more fun, and it gives you a lot more control. For instance, if you see a hill in front of you and you're going about 35 miles per hour, you can put it into third gear before you actually hit the hill. In automatic transmissions, you lose a lot of torque because it doesn't realize that you're going uphill until after you've started going uphill, therefore losing a lot of torque. After watching this tutorial, I hope you are now able to get out there on the road and operate a manual transmission yourself, like one of the very few people who is still able to do it in our world today.